All right, as she said, we are Jamie and Marlo with Bring Back Intimacy. A little bit about us. I have my degree in occupational therapy. Marlo has her master's in divinity and counseling. And we've been doing relationship mentoring and coaching for 30 years now. We started in 1995 with a domestic violence program for the court mandated. Working with them, and that was a real education, and that led into us working with couples and singles to find a partner. And so, anyway, you guys all love Aflac?
Yeah.
All right. You do. Okay. I didn't think you guys were that verbose. I wasn't going to do this, but I can't resist. All right, everybody with me? We're going to chant a little. Aflac. Come on. Aflac. 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 And roll. All right. We've got a crowd going. This is awesome.
That's all I can hear.
This is awesome. So we want to talk a little bit about how to get from fear to fierce. Okay? And how that can affect your success. And we're going to be giving you guys some tools today. So take a couple of notes when we talk about the tools. They're real simple, but you have to do it in the order we talk about. Okay. So we're not picky, but it's neurologically based. So you have to really get your brain in tune with what we're talking about. Confidence makes all the difference in how you succeed at anything. From getting dressed in the morning to whatever you do for work and everything in between. And it turns out that the number one factor for feeling that confidence is your primary relationship, the person you wake up next to, right? It turns out that 82% of high-powered professionals are suffering at work because of their relationship at home. Get that?
And that also includes people who are not, maybe they're separated or they're divorced, and their relationship with that person can create a lot of conflict, and that can create tensions at work. 82%. That's a huge percentage of people are struggling with something in that area right now.
And the problem, of course, is we let other people take our power. Let's pay attention to that as we move forward.
So we just sleep in separate bedrooms.
There are I think there are 7 feelings we're going to talk about today. We have a gift for everybody at the end today. We have a laminated feeling wheel. This is an amazing tool, by the way. Turns out that Brene Brown, in her latest book, everybody know who Brene Brown is? In her latest book, in the very first paragraph of that book, she says the most important thing that you can do is get granular about how you feel your feelings. So good and fine, okay, bad. These are not feelings. Okay? Those are descriptors. Is it good? Pain? Is it good? Money? I don't know. Right? But if you say a feeling, that's what matters. 7 that matter. Turns out that there's a spectrum that creates change. And it starts with fear, and then anxiety, then excitement, and awe. Those 4 create change in your brain. The problem, of course, is that fear and anxiety don't create the change that you want. They create bad change. They stop the confidence. Right? Those 4 feelings are really important to pay attention to, because you want to get to excitement. And it turns out that anxiety and excitement are exactly the same chemicals in your body. Only what you make up about it determines which one you feel, which one you feel. And in order to turn fear into confidence, we have to make a shift. We call it the moving from the north side to the south side. Now, the north side feelings on this wheel, you might consider the bad feelings, right? Anger, frustration, abandonment, control, those kinds of things that you feel. There's no bad feelings. When you feel fear, matter of fact, fear is a vital emotion. Without fear, you can't cross the street safely. Right? That truck, I need to be afraid of it. Otherwise, I could die. But if I'm too afraid, I'll never leave my block. I'll never go where I want to go. Right? So Fear is important, and along with all the feelings, except for one. There's only one toxic emotion. Anybody know what it is?
Anger.
I know some of you do.
Anger is. We'll
No,
talk a little bit about that.
anger's a brilliant emotion. It's not bad. Our behavior sometimes is bad when we feel it.
Rage,
Direct it.
rage is bad.
Rage can be bad,
and anger
you
are
know.
two different things.
But even so, even rage is good if you have it at the right time. You need it.
If you're
So,
saving your child.
When you're lifting the truck off of grandma or whatever it is, you know, you might need to feel it. The trick is to have the right behavior with your feelings, to express them helps you motivate them.
Right, so fear. You have one more, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Question.
What would your life look like if you had a healthy fear and the bad fear wasn't holding you back? If fear didn't control you, what would your life be like?
All right, so I know a little bit about fear controlling me, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about fear in a minute. The biology of fear. So, how many in here are afraid of spiders? Don't like spiders?
Yes.
I've already killed so many in the last 2 days for her.
I was going to say, so who kills the spiders for everybody else?
These two?
Okay, so spiders are, I'm not really afraid of spiders. I like it when they
They're
but
ugly.
whatever. I'll use, I can take them. Actually, we'll take them if you're outside. But the biology of fear, my fear would be snakes. If I'm looking at something like that, my fear is snakes. I grew up in Arizona, born and raised there, and pretty much every time I came out of the house in the summertime, there was a rattlesnake. And so I'd be like, okay, another rattlesnake. So I'm not a lot better today than I ever used to be because I've actually used our tools to get beyond my desperate fear of snakes. I can actually look at them or whatever and not freak out. Now, if there was a rattlesnake right here, there might be a freak out. But in the case of, normally in my lifetime, I would look at a picture of a snake and my heart would just, kind of like the spider for you. Like, oh my God, I'm going to die right now, right? Fight, flight, freeze, or appease. So the biology of fear is, we see the spider, we have the visual thalamus takes it on, the visual cortex takes it on, goes to the amygdala, all within a millisecond. So you're literally going from visual to fight, flight, freeze, or appease because you got to do something. Now, if it's a rattlesnake or a spider, if you are safely at a distance, somebody else can come take care of it, you can walk away. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with that. In our lives, though, we have a lot of things that we are fearful of that have nothing to do with even sometimes what we see. And so we might perceive dangers, and that perception of danger may be somebody that seems threatening to us, and that maybe that threat comes from, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid to be disapproved of. So we have fight, flight, freeze, or appease. My flavor of choice is fight. I'm a redhead and I'm an Aries, so you can imagine what that could look like.
She's not lying
A
about
little
that.
spicy. I can be spicy at times, but I've actually tempered that a lot with the tools that we use. I don't even feel the things that I used to feel like burning inside me. I'll tell you how I feel about it, right? The reality is,
Every time I drive.
why? What's the point in that? So mine would be fight, but if I'm in a work setting or somewhere where I can't fight, I may feel like fighting, but I'm going to appease. I'm going to see, okay, how can I make sure that everything is okay? I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to just step into this. And I would say conflict avoidant, but I've learned to engage in conflict healthily. Jamie might be more on the other side of that. So that's interesting, right, between us. And also, because there are ways to not allow your amygdala to take over in fear, that's the beautiful part of it. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to let fear take over your life and keep you from the success and the fulfillment and the joy that you get to experience. When you eliminate or at least manage fear, your life transforms. Completely different experience when you're not living in fear. And so, fear manifests as anxiety. well, you don't have to raise your hand unless you feel comfortable doing so. How many of you here have felt anxious a lot in your life? Anxiety is huge. And I tell you guys, we really do live in a world right now that is so anxious. Everything is so anxious, and there's all these fear messages coming at us from so many different areas. And so we have to be intentional. I have to be intentional. I've been working very hard on not looking at or not engaging in the things that are the fear-mongering things. Because the more fear that I'm putting myself into, the more I am going to be receiving that message that I need to fight, flight, freeze, or appease. I gotta run, or I gotta fight, or something's gonna happen. And that is not healthy. That is very unhealthy for our bodies and for our souls, actually. And so anxiety, which is the stress factor, there was a study that came out recently that they started with the question with their participants: do you think that stress will hurt you or kill you?
Yes.
Okay, so yes.
Yes,
Okay,
and that's true.
So
That's a messed up question.
Yes, or do you feel like stress is life and I can move through it and it'll be okay? Those were the questions. 8 years later, a significant number of the participants, so you need to listen to this one, significant number of the participants who had either died or had an unhealthy, they had cancer or they had something manifesting physically in their bodies, had answered, yes, stress will kill you, or yes, stress will hurt you. Those who said, and that was like 92% of that group. The group that said, stress is life, I can manage it and work through it, all of them still were healthy. That is important.
So it's also true that stress doesn't hurt you if you believe it. But you have to believe it in your heart. What you believe is true.
So this anxiety stress factor really affects your relationships at work, your relationships at home, all of your relationships. What does that look like for you? What does it look like at work? What does it look like at home? And so the common fears are fear of failure. Common fear is fear of failure. I have felt fear of failure in my life many, many times. The risk felt too scary. And sometimes I didn't step into my fear and risk something because I was afraid I would fail. The fear of disapproval, oh, that's me. I am a recovering approval addict. I am a recovering perfectionist. I came to, in the 90s, I came to the realization that I was addicted, but it wasn't drugs or sex or whatever. It was approval and perfectionism. I was super addicted to that because of my lifetime. As a child, I was on high alert status because of some things that happened to me. And in that high alert status, it was always about, okay, if I can be the fun, cute girl, like my parents even say, oh, you were such a good baby. Whenever we went in the room, we'd wake up smiling and we were just so happy all the time. And so as long as I was always in that space, I was good. Everybody liked me. And you know what? Approval is very, very dangerous because if you get approval, it feels good, and you go, I need more of that. It touches the same spot as where you have the cocaine and so that whole dopamine place. So being very aware, what is it about approval that matters to you? What is it about that is so important? You may risk relationships to get approval. You may be the person who says, yes, we'll come to that. So what we do is we learn how to identify our triggers and our blind spots in our lives. Back in the 90s, don't ask me why, but in our 20s, we were like, we're gonna do this. This is exciting stuff. We were excited about it. Well, until we started doing it. And then we're like, what? This is ridiculous. This is a lot of work.
Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this?
This is hard.
Although I have to tell you, we started it before we had some pretty major stuff in our relationship. So it helped us to get to where we were able to work through our triggers and our blind spots. And we still have blind spots, always uncovering blind spots. That's why the work is so important to do. And I had this deep need for control. You know, that doesn't work very well either, especially in a relationship. So this deep need for control would bring me to a place of feeling so out of control if I couldn't control my environment and make sure that everything was exactly what it needed to be. That was dangerous in my mind. I was fearful if I didn't have every bit of my ducks in a row. And if any of you can relate to this, it's okay.
In this case, it's a goose, right?
Nope, the duck.
The duck? Oh, okay, it's a big duck, a big white duck.
How dare you?
Sorry, man.
No.
That is bad news.
Right here. There was a spider.
Burn it down.
Gone down. Somewhere.
See, this is how we do it. There's this little spider, and we tear the whole wall apart because
Don't know where he went. Don't know where he
look how
went.
proud he is.
It's just sitting in front of
It's back for you later.
Okay, so the cost of living in fear. Here's the problem. If you're like me, you deny your fear sometimes. Anybody do that? I'm not really afraid.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Well, nobody wants
Wow.
to admit it. That's
Yeah,
okay.
well, yeah, come on. Here's the thing. It's really easy to live in that denial, right? Okay, so we're coming back from Las Vegas. It's been 11 years ago. Our now son-in-law had just asked our daughter to marry him in Vegas, and we had flown in, and we had to drive the car back here to Boise. And you know that road through Ely. You know, it's a long, nasty road. And we're driving our son-in-law's car, which is this little Hyundai thing. I mean, it's like a go-kart. and my son-in-law and I had been up really late last night before, so Marla was driving, and of course she's the safest driver anyway, so that's a solid thing to do. And we're driving this little go-kart, and she's passing these trucks, right? And it's windy and crazy, and I'm like, I'm afraid. And I'm like, slow down, baby, be careful. I'm you know, the really bad backseat
See,
driver.
the
You know?
fear of me driving is very interesting.
Yeah, because she's the safest one, right? I mean, everybody else has more accidents than her and everything. So back in the back, my son-in-law, I'm Jamie, but he called me James sometimes. He says, James, what are you afraid of? Nothing. Nothing. I'm not afraid of nothing. There's a long silence in the car. James, what are you afraid of? Everything. Everything can kill you if you start thinking about that, right? And if you really get present to what might make you afraid, it's often more than we want to. But the consequence is it prevents you from your brain from seeing anything. When you get into fear, the fight, flight, freeze, or appease, it cuts off your prefrontal cortex. So you're operating on your lizard brain, okay? All you know is fight, flight, freeze or appease. That's all, and whatever your habit is, it's a reaction instead of a response, right? And if we base our life on reaction, we're gonna fail more often. We're gonna be in fear more often. So, and when you're in that place, you don't pick up nonverbal cues. You don't think logically. You don't see the next 3 steps, and all you see is right now. So that's the mental part. The emotional part here is paralyzing. It can leave you feeling unable to move forward. Right? You're just little. Turns out one of my skills in fear is the church mouse. You know this one, right? You just get small and quiet, and you just don't exist anymore. You just kind of back into the corner. That's the freeze, right? And what good are you in a crisis if you're frozen? None. You're just not. And it's often rooted in this fear of failure. And so in the physical, and we all talked about this already, the physical, fear makes you physically sick and stifles your potential, creativity, and joy. You want the science on this? Read the book. The Body Keeps the Score. So in the 90s, I was an OT, occupational therapist, in a nursing home. And I was really busy, so I had to start working at 4:30 a.m. And I got to work with my my clients in the nursing home, and it was quiet, right? And I got this really special time with the clients because there was nothing else going on. And I got to start asking the question, what was your childhood pain like? And I was astounded because everybody with COPD had childhood anxiety. Everybody with lower bowel issues had abuse issues. Everybody with heart pain had anger issues. And it was right down the road every single time the diagnosis matches the childhood pain. I was like, I gotta write an article. It turns out they already have. The science is solid now. They have metadata on the fact that unresolved pain gets stored in your body and becomes toxic. Right? So we have to, that's why Brene Brown says, get granular. Feel the feelings. Figure out where they're coming from. If you can do that work, it changes the way you react to fear today.
Alright, so turning fear into fuel. Fear can be a really great thing to turn into fuel and fierceness and confidence. And so, what do you need to do to turn your fear into fuel? Well, number one, you need to reframe your fear as a learning experience, learning opportunity. So, my whole lifetime, up until even recently, when I was, frustrated or confused or upset, like when I was younger, and well, doesn't mean that didn't happen with Jamie, but when boy broke up with me, or I was sad about that, and my mom would say, it's just a good growing experience. Really? Because I am so tired of growing, can I please not grow anymore? Right? This sucks. And the reality is, I don't want to stop growing, but see, growth is what used to be one of my number one goals, values in my life. Not that growth isn't anymore, but my values have shifted a little bit into success and adventure. But growth was big time, growth and joy. I wanted to embrace growth, and I wanted to embrace joy. If you don't know your top two values, and you can't identify them right now off the top of your head, that may be something you want to look at because it matters. Your top two values matter in everything that you do.
It's one of the tools, write that down. 2 values to live by.
So having the mindset. See, this is shifting our mindsets, right? You probably have heard of the elastic mindset. We want to be able to have an elastic mindset. If we're so hardcore about what we're thinking and what we're experiencing and what we do, and we push that on other people, you would rather be right than in a relationship. I used to want to rather be right than in a relationship. I was going to prove that I was right. And well, that didn't work very well in relationship.
And the problem was she was always right.
It's
really frustrating.
You all heard that, right? Not all.
That's why it's being recorded.
It's ugly.
Use that later.
We got it. All right, so you're reframing it as a learning opportunity. This is a chance to learn something new or strengthen something that you already know. It's not that well. And you can ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? Get curious. Get curious. Something that really struck me along our journey was that I needed to get curious instead of critical. My temporal lobe is right here. Your temporal lobe is always chatting at you, telling you things like, you're so stupid, oh, you should have done that, and you should have not done that, and you're blah, 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 blah. It's a constant narrative in your brain that is in your voice, usually. And it usually didn't start with you and your voice. It started somewhere very much earlier in your life. And that temporal lobe, you need to stop that in your head. Every time you hear a voice in your head saying, you should have done that, you shouldn't have done that. Well, how stupid are you that you said those words? Whatever it is, because that's what used to happen to me a lot. I decided to take control of that. I could be control of my own narrative in my head. And I will admit to the tools on how to eliminate the temporal lobe, or at least calm it, and be able to say to it, you are not, this is not correct. This temporal lobe conversation that I'm having right now is not even accurate. So I need to give myself grace in those moments. I need to be able to say to myself, how can I get curious about what? Even if my temporal lobe is going up, what is going on? How do I need to get curious about this? well, that's that thought that I just had, that temporal lobe thought, not important, put it away. In life, though, when you are in this space of fear, get curious about it. Why am I afraid? What's going on around us that I need to learn from? What do I need to do right now to change my thought process around us? It's so easy to be just like, oh, that's just stupid. In the work environment, someone might come to you, maybe it's a boss or a coworker, and how do I do that? And it's a really, they're excited about it, and you're thinking, oh, that's ridiculous. That'll never work. Get curious. Ask questions. What does this actually mean? And maybe you will come to the conclusion in yourself and then with the conversation that it's not really a great idea, but let's reframe it. Let's look at it differently. And what can we do? This is the opportunity to learn and grow. And this mindset turns fear into curiosity and opens up the doors to a lot of things. So choose curiosity over criticism. I was so good at being very judgmental of myself and other people internally. And I had to keep reframing that and say, wait a minute, I'm being judgmental of myself. I have to work on me first. And when that started going away, or getting eliminated from my mind, at least mostly, I was able to then view other people differently. Really how you are to yourself, how you are with yourself, is how you are with other people. The things that piss you off about other people, usually something you might want to take a look at. So number 2, set small actionable goals. So it's okay you don't have to take the huge leaps into your fear. Take small actionable steps. These small manageable steps are things like listening to your temporal lobe and saying, wait a minute, I don't really want that. That's not me. That's not who I am. I'm going to change that. That can be one thing. Or another small step for fear is, today, I'm going to do something that is safe that I'm afraid of. Now, it may not, like maybe it's jumping out of an airplane. If you want to go skydiving, maybe you don't want to go skydiving, you're really afraid of it. But you've decided you're going to take a small, very large step to conquer that fear. So you've made the decision, I'm going to conquer that fear. I'm going to make the appointment. Okay, I've made the appointment. You don't have to jump out of the airplane yet. You just made the appointment. So take the small steps to get to that place. Each small step builds your confidence. So we want you to celebrate the small steps. I'm a massive celebrator. Ask Jamie. I celebrate everything. You trimmed your nails. Let's celebrate. That's very silly. But no, the celebration matters because celebration brings a joy into the experience. So celebrate your small steps. And number 3, visualize your most awe-inspiring outcome. So you want to shift your focus from what your fear is, how you are visualizing what's going to happen. We often visualize the worst case scenario. So it matters what you're visualizing about the situation. You want to make sure that you are stepping out of the worst case scenario. That's a small step. And you're saying, okay, I'm going to get curious about this. What does this mean? What does this look like? So you're going to shift your focus. And by focusing on what you can gain, it changes everything. You are going to be reframing your brain. Our brains are incredible. If you look up fMRI, you can find a video about changing the way you think. And this is inside your brains are amazing. So we have the 6-lane freeway of fear, or whatever it is. When we're triggered, we go right down that road. Fight, flight, freeze, or freeze. So we're running down this 6-lane freeway, and at the end we're gonna be raw, or we're gonna run away, or we're gonna just check out and abandon right in the moment. See, I'm a really good fight. Jane is a really good, he could stand there when we were having a fight, and he could stand there and he could be like, and I knew he was completely gone. He was not listening to a word I was saying. I felt
Church mouse.
Church mouse. Or just run away, it's scary. And so your brain, you have the 6-lane freeway. How you dismantle that is important. You want to make sure that you are doing some tools. One of those tools is a double word. So you think, you go down this train, so sometimes you feel it in your body first. When you are afraid, or you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling angry, where do you feel it in your body? That matters. Because if you were going to feel it in your body, where emotions reside, emotion is the chemical produced, you're going to feel it in your body before you are ever aware. I think this is a millisecond thing though, it's super quick. Before you are aware that you're triggered, and then you pop into your trigger and you say something that you wish you hadn't said. Or you do something that you wish you hadn't done.
That's never happened to me.
Never. I've never had that. So many times in my life. And so the beautiful thing is if you just wait 10 seconds, just 10 seconds, you get the opportunity to change your response, to change your reaction. So here's the 6-lane freeway. I am choosing to understand what's going on in my feeling, the granular feelings that are going on, the emotions in my body. I'm choosing to understand that. Wow, I'm feeling afraid and I'm feeling confused and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay, that's okay. Feelings are feelings. They're just feelings. I have a choice. I don't have to dive into those feelings and be an jerk. I'm a person, right? And so I'm okay, wait a minute, take a breath. Okay, center. Yes, I feel those feelings. Cancel, cancel. That's our favorite double word. Cancel, cancel. And
Everybody say it with me. Cancel, cancel.
So cancel, cancel. You can stop, delete, whatever works for you. But cancel, cancel. It's going to take the old neural pathway, a protein from the old neural pathway, and dance it into a new neural pathway when you start to visualize what you really want. So you feel it, cancel, cancel, visualize what you really want, and you start having this. That neural pathway is best in recycling because those proteins dance over, and that is going to start creating a 6-lane freeway. That's a really beautiful freeway, the one that you want to live in, where you are moving into what you have visualized that you want your best life outcome, work outcome, family outcome to look. It's really, sounds really simple, and it is, but it is not an easy thing to do. Triggered, when we're triggered, it is very difficult to step back and take 10 seconds. So just step back. One small step to celebrate. Step back and take 10 seconds before you react and you respond.
A couple of dad jokes for you. I have a fear of speed bumps. I'm getting over it slowly. And I have a fear of elevators, but I started to take steps to avoid it. Yeah. This is what we're doing today. All right. So a foundation of confidence. We have to build our foundation. It's like Noah said. It's simple, but it's not easy. It takes work to do this. You have to pay attention, and you have to be consistent. Your brain does what you tell it to do, but you have to keep telling it to do that thing until it becomes a habit. Otherwise, you're going to go back to the least common denominator. All right? So practice feeling identification with the 9-word journal. This is our big tool, guys. This is our best tool. It will change your brain. It will make you smarter. I promise. We did a form of this 9-word journal for 12 years. I missed probably 5 days out of 12 years doing this. And I swear, I am so much smarter for it. It changed everything in my life. And we simplified it. So it only takes 1 minute. You've got 1 minute to give me every day? 1 minute. Okay? You get your feeling though. You can have a free copy digitally, put it on your phone. Today, if you give us your email so we can send you more tools, we'll give you the laminated copy. Okay? Remember the north side? Here's how it works. You're going to write 3 feelings that you've had in the last 24 hours from the north side. Right? There's 3 categories. Fear, control, or abandon. And outside of that, there's about 20 feelings each. And you just find them on the end. So there's anger, hostile, trauma, guilty, shame. Okay, I didn't mention this earlier. Remember we didn't get to the answer of what the one toxic feeling is. And it's shame. Shame is the only toxic feeling. Shame is a lie. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am wrong. I'm a bad person. Right? And that is a lie. Now there are a few exceptions. Very few. Okay? But Brene Brown says, everybody's doing the best they can. Right? Now, if they're a psychopath, that might be different, right? But, you know, other than that, that's a different statistic, right? We'll get another. But, you know, other than that, everybody's really doing their best, right? And you have to see people that trigger you, people that are not looking like they're doing their best. They probably just don't have the capacity yet. They're stuck in that amygdala brain, right? They're reacting. So you take those three. Now, that's the hardest part, is just identifying the three north-side feelings that you have. We'll do the rest of the work. Well, the next step is done for you. All you have to do is look across, straight across the wheel. Frustration becomes worthwhile. Anger becomes respect. Anxiety becomes contentment. Abandonment becomes joy. Control becomes peace. Fear becomes power. If you give your power away, you're going to be in fear. Now that's the next three words, okay? Once you get in the habit of doing that, you're talking about 15, 20 seconds. The next three things you're going to write down are three things you're thankful for today. Gratitude, look it up. The studies on gratitude are overwhelming. We have metadata now. Focusing on your gratitudes will make you a better person, I promise. We don't have time to go into the details, but it's very powerful. So you're writing 9 words. 3 north side feelings, your goal feelings for the day. And the trick here is, when you get those 3 goal feelings for the day, think about your schedule. Look at your calendar. How are you going to bring peace, power, and joy, or one of their flavors, into each one of those events on your calendar for the day? Visualize, remember, visualize yourself doing it successfully, better than you ever have. Okay? What you see, what you believe is going to be true. So then the next step is forgive yourself. You know, here's the thing. If you're like me, you might have a hard time being kind to yourself. I was pretty good at being kind to other people most of the time. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I wasn't great at it. But I was not very good about being kind to me. I heard a lot of negative messages when I was young, right? You know, and so then whenever I make a mistake, it's like, oh, I'm so stupid. Temporal lobe. The voice is strong. It's my voice. But it's a lie, because that's based in shame. We have to attack shame with forgiveness. It's the antidote. Okay? And it starts with me. If I can't forgive me, I can't forgive you. Okay? And like Carl said, we choose that curiosity instead of criticism. You know, we talked about the double word, and we learned that in 1987, you know, back in the dark ages.
This has been together since the dinosaurs.
Yes. So I had an anatomy instructor who would give a really good illustration. He'd like, here's a giant skull, and here's the styloid process sticking down right here, and there's a muscle that attaches between here and the clavicle. What is it? And he'd say, and somebody would say, pes anserinus. No, everybody in the room, cancel. And the reason why I told us he did that, he said, when I get the wrong answer in class like that, I'll get 30% wrong answers on the test. Same wrong answer. Because the wrong answer is sticky. It's embarrassing. It sticks in our brain. Where the right answer, sternocleidomastoid, is harder to come up with.
It's harder to come up with anyway. You can tell me what you just said, it's all Greek to me. I'm glad I didn't have to. All right, so here are some more practical tools to help boost your confidence. It's really engage in that confidence and strengthen that inner fierceness. And we're talking about fierceness that is confidence, that is south side of the wheelbase. The confidence that doesn't have fear in it. The confidence, you know, there's a vibrato. You can have a vibrato and bring confidence into the situation, but what's going on with your heart? Do you really feel confident? Or are you just kind of a sasshole? You know, someone who's sassy and an asshole. I used to be a sassy. I can be a sassy sometimes. Anyway, I like that word. All right, so do the daily work. Remember small steps now. So the daily work of telling your temporal lobe, stop, cancel. That isn't my thought. That's a really important point. Something I didn't mention earlier is that if you are using should or should not, if you are thinking, I think I talked a little bit about it, should or should not, you're like shoulding and shoulding. So remember, stop shoulding on yourself. You really don't need that business in your life because the shoulds are just bullshit. That's the reality of it. And so being able to be aware that when I should on myself, I'm really not, I'm diving into that fear, I'm diving into that shame and disappointment in myself. It's okay to be disappointed in yourself. It's okay to feel frustrated with yourself, like, oh, I should have worked out today, or whatever that is.
Did you get it
When
again?
you use should, right? When you should, you are shaming yourself. So, reframing that. I have learned to eliminate should so much from my vocabulary, except for like in this kind of setting. And so that should, when I hear it or I hear it said, I can even be reading a stupid book, not a stupid book, a book. I could be reading a book and it says should in there, and I'm like, I leap over it and I change it. I change it to I could do, or I would like to do, or I desire to do this, or this would be a good idea for you. So changing it so that you're not even speaking it. You know, probably most of you, because I know that we did as little kids, our parents, you know, oh, you shouldn't do that, and you should do that. And so we learned it very young. It's an easy word to use. Try to eliminate should. It is a difficult thing to do. I promise you, it's taken me years.
But how can you do it? As soon as you say it, cancel.
Yep.
But you have to replace it with
Yep.
something else. I would, I could, I desire.
Yes, and the daily work includes when you are shifting that thinking, that 6-lane freeway to the new neural pathway. You are wanting to make sure that you are being very intentional about the visualization part because you have to replace it. You can't just do the cancel and it goes away. You need to replace it with something. So for me, replacing the should was, okay, I'm using I could or I need to. So I use the visualization of seeing myself using could instead of should or whatever it happened to do at the time. So doing the daily work really matters, and it really is daily work. And the reason we say this is because when Jamie and I have dropped off our tools, and we've been doing this since the 90s, not all of it, but a lot of it, we end up not having a great trajectory. And so when we're not using our tools, you're either going forward or you're going backward. You're not staying stagnant, friends. You're not. So if you're not moving forward, you are slipping. So dive into what Jamie just talked about and set boundaries. I was horrible at yes. In other words, I would say yes, and then I would be resentful because I said yes. I say yes, and that was blah. Now some things are yes at the end, but when if it's a fuck yes, sorry about that, but if it's that, then you definitely want to dive into it. But if it's not that, you need to question, okay, what is this? If I say yes, will I feel resentful? Is this something that I have to do and I have to work on this over here so I won't feel resentful? Is it something that I don't have to do? Okay, I don't have to do it, I can say no. And so saying no matters when you are going to feel resentful or angry or frustrated because you have to do it. Now, in a work setting, there are things you're going to do that you don't like to do. Well, anywhere, right? At home, I don't love doing the dishes, but I do them so that my house isn't full of this disgust. So saying no, when you need to say no, especially if you're really quick. Now, some of you might say no well. This is for those of you like me who had a very difficult time saying no. Because approval. You don't need it. If it's for approval, you check yourself, right? If you are saying yes because you want to be approved of, check it and decide, is this worth it? If I'm going to be resentful, not worth it. If I'm going to be angry, not worth it. And say yes to the things that scare you a little bit. Taking those little tiny steps to get to the place where you want to be, so you're embracing the yes when it's a fuck yes. And only when it is. Because if it's not, you're not going to be excited about it.
Then it's a held up.
Then it's a held up. Okay, so what you focus on grows. Interesting. You probably all have all heard this phrase in one way or another. What you focus on grows. Well, interesting, because it's been around for eons. We have people like Gandhi had a phrase that was similar to this. Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, Aristotle, and Epictetus. They all had something about what you focus on grows. Well, that's real. That's exactly what we're talking about. If you're focusing on the negative, if you're focusing on the fear, if you're focusing on the stress, if you're focusing on the anxiety, that's going to grow. If you're focusing on the peace and the empowerment and the confidence and the joy and the happiness and the positivity and all those things, and I'm not talking about toxic positivity, that's another thing for another day. If you're focusing on that stuff, the peace, the power, the joy, the confidence, you are going to see your life change. And you're going to see your conversations change. And you're going to see the people around you actually start to change too. And there's a really cool study on gratitude that you can look up. And one of the things that they did is that they put a middle manager it was a 10-story building. He happened to be in the middle of the building. They had him do 10 gratitudes a day. This is research. 10 gratitudes a day. And they could see the movement of that gratitude on his floor. People became more positive, more grateful. And it went up and down. The whole company was transformed because of his choice to have 10 gratitudes a day.
You can change the entire culture of Aflac if you choose to be positive.
Grateful. All right, so I want to be confident. When do I stop pretending? Never. Well, it's a whole fake it till you make it, but we don't want, it's not going to be faking it. In other words, you're making a choice. When you're making a choice, you might be like, oh, I'm so triggered right now. Take a breath. You respond positively. You respond healthfully. You respond with curiosity. It doesn't mean that you're still not feeling that. That trigger those triggers kind of sit there, and we have to, move through them maybe the rest of the day or for a couple days, but at least you're making the choice to in the moment, not respond to that trigger things. And so you are kind of faking it, but you're not. Because when you start getting granular with your feelings, you are choosing something where you're actually engaging with the chemicals in your body. And you're telling those chemicals that you're safe. I'm safe. It's going to be okay. I can choose curiosity. Nothing is a threat. Now, if it's a saber-tooth tiger coming after you, run. But other than that, there are many things that are actually dangerous. But truly, in a work setting, at home, out with friends, if you're triggered, you get to make the choice to shift that. You don't have to live in that space. You don't have to live in that space in any of your relationships. You can live in a space where you're choosing how you feel, because feelings are a choice, which pissed me off the first time I heard this from our mentor back in 2000. I was like, Russ, you are crazy. Jamie did this thing to me. I'm angry. And he said, but you're the one that chooses how you feel. I was so mad.
And the pressure was off.
Jamie's like, thank you, Russ, thank you. I'm so grateful.
So confidence in action, right? We want to see. Okay, so all I was saying right here was, the fake it. If you can see it, you can see the positive change you want to make. It's not faking. You're living it out. But again, remember, you have to believe it, right? If you don't believe it and you act it out, then that's faking it, right? So the practice, when you do these daily tools, we're going to give you a couple of simple tools, right? The 9-word journal and the cancel. Those are, and the visualizations, there's 3 here. These 3 tools take almost no time out of your day. Practically 0. And they will pay you back hours of productivity. Setting your mindset for success makes all the difference. Lay your foundation so you can stand tall, all right? So, when you breathe, okay, I'm going to give you a 4th tool, all right? I want you to think. It's a bonus tool. Right? I want you to feel the worst feeling you felt this week. Think about it. Find it. Now I want you to feel it for a second. Where is it in your body? What's the first thing you notice? Think about it. Now, deep breath in. Put your hands up. All the way in. And all the way out. One more time. All the way in. All the way out. How did that change? It's significant. If you pay attention, when you get granular, you'll notice that you can't be anxious when you breathe low. Get your breath all the way down like a diaphragmatic breathing, like you're going to sing. If you don't know what that means, get some singing training. We can all use it, particularly me, right? So,
Breath matters.
so 7 seconds will change exactly how you're feeling and give you a much more positive attitude. Pay attention to that feeling that you had when you felt that worst feeling. That first, was it in your heart, your stomach, was it in your head?
Did you feel choked?
Did you feel choked? Whatever that was, that's a clue for you. So remember, the emotions are the chemicals in your body, the feeling words are what we call those. Right? When you acknowledge that chemical in your body, you change it. You ride it instead of it riding you. You know what I mean? It's a surfing illustration. You can get on top of the water with the surfboard, or the wave can crush you, or both, which is how I do it.
We've had it both ways.
But you know, but it's much better to be on top of this stuff than it is underneath. Maintain resilience. Resilience is amazing. You are way more resilient than you probably realize. Reframing your fear as a learning opportunity. When you pay attention to that fear feeling in your body, what's going on? What is your old reaction, and what do you want your new response to be? Let's make a choice in your response and live your life how you want to live, not how these feelings are cornering you. Again, like I said, set small, actionable goals. You can break this down. So reframing the fear. I have a story about reframing the fear. Okay. So when Marla and I met, we were actually 18. And we met, it's a great story, but we don't have time for that part. So she lived in Arizona, I lived in Southern California. I went to go see her, then she came to see me. It's been 3 months now. We've been on the phone. Remember the phone on the wall? Okay.
And also letters.
We wrote letters.
2 letters back and forth.
And back then,
in the mail.
Back then, it only took like a day and a half to get a letter from Arizona to California. It was amazing. Now it takes like 3 weeks, but okay, it's different. But you know, so Marla comes out. It's been 3 months. It's been going really great. You know, I actually turned 19 in the process, and she came out to see me in California. I picked her up from LAX. I take her to Hollywood to the Clocks restaurant. It's a famous restaurant. We were by far, like by 40 or 50 years, the youngest people there.
Everybody had cream spinach.
Everybody had cream spinach on their plate. And we're like, oh, this is weird. Anyway, it was a fun restaurant. Took her up to Griffith Park Observatory. Very famous laserium, right? I take her out after the laserium. It's a great date. I spin her around. She's facing all of LA and the ocean, and the lights are on her eyes. And in her eyes, I see this love. And it's like love. And I'm like, whoa, wow. She really, really loves me. What do you think I said? Any guesses?
Bye.
Bye? Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Pretty much.
That's pretty much. You nailed it. You're the first person ever to guess. Everybody says, well, you.
Why didn't you just propose?
Yeah, why don't you marry her or whatever? Like, okay, no way. I was like, I'm not ready for a. Oh, you should have seen Marla. Why did I come? It wasn't quite that bad, but it felt like that, right? It was like, why did I come to California then? If it would have been today with the cell phone and Uber and whatever, she would have gotten another ticket and gone home. But I had her because she was in my car. And so she ended up coming and staying with my parents' house, and we went to Magic Mountain that week, and I really did realize that I didn't have to be afraid of this love. Right? So I made this, small step forward, a small actionable goal of, let me just see what it's like. I can embrace this. Right? And then use that positive visualization. And we started talking about our dreams. What will it look like for us to get married? Well, it was a little later. It wasn't that quick, right? It was a little time. But
not that much.
we were married 18 months later, so
Yeah.
But that positive visualization, talking about those dreams and encouraging each other, like, oh, you can do it, apply to that college. And I did. I applied to that college, and I got in. And wow, okay, I'm not so dumb after all. Right? And it really made a difference in every aspect, especially in the confidence. We can do this. You can do anything you set your mind for. If you can see it clearly in your mind and get the awe and excitement going, change will happen.
All right, so your fierce future. Remember, fear can be transformed into confidence. You have the tools. You have the tools you need right now to make that happen for your life. Remember to make sure that you're popping in that visualization. Visualize what you want to see. Visualize what you desire. For me, my visualization is for relationship. My visualization is I'm on a beach and I have my toes in the sand and the smell of the salt in the air and the waves crashing. I hear that, and I'm with Jamie and I have maybe a pina colada, I don't know, whatever delicious drink, and our kids and our grandkids and our friends are all there, and we are just enjoying each other and loving each other and being present with each other. That's my visualization. Now, I have different visualizations for different things. That's my visualization for what my desire is for our relationship and for our family. Because we are choosing to have a legacy of love that we're giving our kids and our grandkids. We have 2 precious grandkids who are formidable. They're the best. Don't get me started. I will. And so, being able to visualize what I want their future to look like. I want them to live in passion and excitement and adventure and joy and peace and empowerment. I want them to have the confidence that we went to dinner with them last night, and that both the kids, they're just so kind. That, every time the waiter would come, and Luke is a little talker, and he'd be like, oh, so I'd like he'd pretend Wolverine, and then Everly, she'd be like, thank you so much. And Luke would be like, oh, that was so nice, thank you. The whole evening. I'm like, that's a beautiful thing. I want more of that for them and the people around them. What a joyful experience it is to be able to know that our kids and our grandkids and down the generations get to live a legacy of love as opposed to a legacy of loss. Because our ancestors had a lot of legacy of loss. And we are choosing to break those patterns. And that's what you guys are doing using these tools. You're breaking the patterns of fear. You don't have to live in fear any longer. You get to embrace confidence. You get to embrace this really joyful place and actually feel excited about life. And I can see some of you tend to be more in that personality. You're excited about life. Others of you, it takes you a little bit more to get that excitement. I mean, anxiety is real. It's very paralyzing. And you get the opportunity to change your narrative for this beautiful future. And that will transform Aflac, like Jamie said. That's the cool part of it, is that you get the opportunity to change a whole huge company just by how you're transforming it. So, are you committed? Yes. Oh, well, that was
Let's commit. Let's commit. Raise your hands. You're going to do the 9-word, 1-minute journal, and the cancel. Are you committed to this? All right. Come on now. Come on now.
All right. So we are so excited to have been able to come and hang out with you guys this morning.
Yeah, what a gift.
What a beautiful group of people. Truly. It's just been fun. Here we go. Oh, so. Okay, that's all here.
Just gonna fix
Okay,
this real quick.
so,
But-
any questions?
So we are relationship experts, work, home. We're willing to take any question you might throw at us. Your biggest problem in life, throw it at us. You know, change the names, whatever you need to do. We'll take questions.
Just the spiders, man. Just the spiders.
I think you're spot on about when you wake up that morning, you set your goals for the day, and don't let the negative self-talk get in the way. You get out, and you get out of the house, and you get prospect, and you make it a day.
Exactly, and that's where you take those south side feelings and look at your schedule and visualize yourself exhibiting those in that meeting, in that scenario, in that sales person, whatever that is. See yourself on the positive side, doing your best, achieving more than you ever thought possible. The more you can see, the more you can achieve. That's right.
All right. Any other questions?
The only other thing I really hit on was
Well, that's good. Hey,
Or just the website.
I can see what you say about relationships. If you have a relationship that's dragging you down your goals, and I've been in somebody that's narcissistic and not believe that, you know, you're the Debbie Downer, and then it's like, that, when you open your mind,
the problem, of course, is we give our
These
power
wedges
away.
for it.
Okay, so here's one of the things about relationships.
Wait for it.
You always pick somebody. This is a scientific fact. You always pick somebody within 5 points of your IQ. Okay? Always. Otherwise, you'd be bored or overwhelmed, right? And you always pick someone with a matching emotional issue, not the same, right? So I'm going to take a little gamble here. And I'm not making any accusations or anything, okay? But you would be more on the codependent side, attracting a narcissist. It's a belt.
Hey, I'm a recovering codependent.
Yeah.
So you probably
Me
are
too.
too, because you were in that relationship,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah, the appeasing person, yes.
yes, everybody's gonna be fine. Let's make it okay.
Make it okay. So you pick that person
Still
that is
that way.
opposite, and it's a matching issue. The person you pick, well, even the narcissist, and I'm sorry, because that's painful, my dad is certifiable, okay, so I lived with that my whole life. And so, you know, even that person has a tremendous gift for you. Now, it might mean getting apart from them is the gift, right? But by looking at what's happening and seeing how it's affecting you and choosing yourself, right, to take your power back, right, changes everything. Remember, it's not your partner. It's your shadow value. Your shadow, so what we figured out in 30 years of working with couples, we have a 97% success rate, keeping the couples together happier than ever. Turns out that about 3% need to fit, right? Need to get apart. It's actually around 4, it's like 3% is about right. Because there are 10% of people, sorry.
So 1 in 10, you guys think about this, 1 in 10 people.
Are either narcissistic, sociopathic, or psychopathic.
1 in 10.
1
That
in
was
10.
CIA operative talked about this.
This is the reality of life. So that means about it's about 3% because sometimes they choose each other, right? So it's about 3% that marry somebody that's not, and those are the ones that need to fail. And we can find that really fast. And so, what was I going to tell you?
Just that, whatever.
So what happens is when you take instead of letting them have your power, you take your power back. Now you have all these gifts. Like, I don't want that, and I don't want that, and I don't want that. Right? Don't take my power anymore. And now I know I'm going to take it back. I'm going to be stronger and more aware in the next relationship.
Well, and so for people who aren't in a relationship with a certifiable narcissist, somebody on the very high scale, high end. So if narcissism gets thrown out a lot, there's 5% of people are actually narcissists, so we need to be aware of that, right, and be cautious of that. And then secondarily, what we see is that higher end narcissism is really just selfishness. And so if you're in a relationship where you have the person who's less selfish, a little more like, let's make everything happy, like me, and then somebody who's, so where I'm calling us out here, somebody I was more codependent, Jamie was more narcissistic, but we weren't, you know, on this.
Diagnosable, right? It's not that far. It's more about arrested development. You have to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, you just when you're trigger point, you're responding from a very young age. So if you're both triggered, you're both responding from a very young age, and that doesn't go very well. Here I'm 5 and Jamie's 12, and we're not interacting very well. So it's so important to know that your relationship at home does not have to be the thing that when you get to work, your mind is kind of still back there. Remember, I'm going to challenge you guys, those of you who have a relationship, a significant other, I'm challenging you. When you start to feel triggered, do what I just talked about earlier. Take a step back, take 10 seconds before you respond or react, and I say 15 minutes, and do these tools, and then come back to the conversation. Get curious over criticism. Get curious over critical. And if you are at all wanting to defend yourself or blame, stop. Because that will only cause many more issues in any, and that's all relationships. I'm talking about work relationships too. So when you are getting into that place of wanting to defend or blame somebody else, take a quick check. What's really going on with me? Why do I desire this? Why am I so quick to go to defensiveness? Because there's no matter what it is, there's always a tiny kernel of truth. It's maybe a huge truth, but there's always a tiny kernel of truth in what's being brought to you, especially in your significant relationships. And you're with the people you work with almost as much as you're with your partner, at least some of them. And so that's important.
So here's a question to always ask before you defend yourself. This is a magic question. Help me understand. Okay? Before you say, no, I didn't do that. I'm not about, I would never, or whatever. Help me understand. I'm hearing you say X. Is that true? And if so, please help me. Right? And then reserve the right to come back later to the conversation and say, you know what? That's an interesting point. I see that you truly believe this, or whatever. Let me talk to you tomorrow, or whatever, right? Or later tonight, whatever time is a reasonable time. Because if you give yourself that space, now you're winning the conversation instead of getting buried by it. You're surfing instead of being.
All right, so
It's our pleasure, guys.
Yes,
we have the feeling wheels available for everybody that put their name in the system.
And if you didn't get it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's